Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online role video with me, Sherman. Today guys, we're going to be taking a look at the Lich Mother in the tank role and how you can set it up and use it for your own purposes. So the first thing I need to explain to you is that with every option that you play with one of my builds, it's going to allow you to play a different role. And it's not going to restrict you to one specific. But it does take a lot of time to get there, so just enjoy the journey of getting your character to this point. Alright, let's jump into it. Taking a look at the options here. We are a Breton Necromancer. You can be any race with this. Breton, I just feel, fits this really well because of their race passives. But a High Elf would be really good at this. An Argonian would be really good for this. Any of the Magicka races would be really good. Even the Stamina races would be good for this, but it's more geared towards a Magicka person. So, as you can see, we have 14 into Magicka, 50 into health. This is going to give us 25k Magicka, 34k health, 18k Stamina. The reason why we have this set up this way is so we can use the resources to better our advantage at playing the tank role. We have 2111 spell damage, 30% spell critical. We have a 25k spell resist with a 22k physical resist. As you can see, we are using the Lady Mundustone to give us spell and physical resistance. We do have minor heroes at all times because we do have shulks on. And we are using tri-stat food, and we are a vampire. Alright, moving on to the gear, the way we have it set up. Starting with the monster set, we are using Niraneth. Niraneth is a really good set for this type of play because it gives you that universal ability to do damage, tank, and heal, and still have the sets necessary to do that, plus having something to help you do damage is really good. Alright, so this set gives you the 1-piece max health, the 2-piece. When you deal direct damage, you have a 10% chance to summon a Lich Crystal that explodes after 2 seconds, dealing 11,264 magic damage to all enemies within 4 meters. This effect can occur once every 3 seconds. Moving on to the next set, we are running Julianus with this. Julianus is a really good damage-dealing set for starting characters or characters that have been playing for a while. It's just a really good set to get you introduced to the game. So, especially for a Magicka build. As you can see, the 2-piece spell crit, 3-piece max Magicka, 4-piece spell crit, 5-piece spell damage. And we are wearing this in 5 pieces on the body. The monster set is always going to be the helm and shoulders. And we do have a medium helm with a light belt. This actually does give you some of the better resistances or resistance setup. The other option you can do is a medium gloves with a heavy helm. That also works well. But I like this setup personally. I think it works a lot better for me as a player. Moving on to the last set we are using is Shulks. Shulks gives you max health, spell damage, and spell critical, and this really helps you build out your character for more damage purposes and also for healing purposes. The 5-piece is really good for this because you gain minor heroism at all times whenever you're in combat, generating 1 ultimate every 1.5 seconds. So this ultimate gen really allows you to use your ultimates more effectively, more often. So this way you get that higher ultimate gen for your character, and you can utilize it to your advantage whether you're tanking, healing, or dealing damage. Alright, now moving over to the traits. The traits I have set up on this is I have 3 infused on the body. This is going to give you the maximized in those tri-stat enchants. This is going to maximize your health, magic, and stamina. In the smaller pieces, we are using divines. This is going to allow us to build out our character to be damage dealing if we need to be, tank if we need to be, and healer if we need to be. We can change out our Mundustone to affect our ability with those different things. Moving on to the jewelry, we are running the Trirune rings. This is going to give us more health, magic, and stamina to allow us to more hybridize our character, which is really good. And then we are using 1 infused necklace with a cost reduction. Being a Breton, taking advantage of cost reduction is a good idea. Moving on to the staves we're using, we are using a Shulk's Ice Staff with a Crusher enchant. You do need to apply this every 5 seconds for Crusher to be effective. You can put it on the back bar, but on the back bar we are using a Shulk's Lightning Staff with a Disease enchant. This way we can get Minor Defile put on enemies that are healers. It just helps us out with that effectiveness. Even with our Wall of Elements, we can apply Minor Defile, which is really good. And you can choose the enchants you want to use for your own purposes when you're playing a tank. Alright, so now that you guys have seen the gear, let's move on to skills. Starting with the class, make sure you unlock all your class passives. It's very important because you never know what skills you're going to be using in any situation. Moving on to weapons, we are using just mainly Destruction Staff and Resto Staff, so make sure you unlock those passives as well. Armor, light armor, the top 3 passives. This is going to give you Grace. This is going to reduce your snares applied to you by 4%. It's also going to reduce your sprint cost by 3%. You get Evocation. This increases your magic recovery by 4% and reduces your spell cost by 2%. Being a Breton, that really helps you out. And then Spell Warding. Increase your spell resistance by 363 for each piece of light armor equipped. Medium armor, Dexterity, increases your weapon critical. Really don't have to worry about this if you don't want to, but if you do decide you want to make this character more hybrid, so you can use Stamina and Magicka, you can take advantage of this. Windwalker increases your stamina recovery by 4% for each piece of medium armor equipped and reduces the cost of your stamina abilities by 2% per piece of medium armor equipped. Now again, it's up to you if you want to use this as well. The main one you need to focus on here is Athletics. This increases your movement speed bonus of Sprint by 3% for each piece of medium armor equipped, and it reduces your cost of dodge rolling by 4% for each piece of medium armor equipped. Moving on to Heavy Armor. We have everything unlocked. So we have Unstoppable as the skill. This is going to give us a basic Major Ward, Major Resolve. If we want to use this as a Stamina Morph, save us some resources from Magicka, we can use this. Moving on, we do have Resolve. This is our primary resistance increaser for heavy armor. This is what's going to give us a lot of survivability. As you can see, it gives us 1,811 max resistances, both spell and physical. Constitution increases health recovery by 4% for each piece of heavy armor equipped. We get a 20% increase. If you wanted to build around it, you can. With heavy armor, it is an option to build around health recovery, and it's actually really effective if you do. Juggernaut, increase your max health by 2% for each piece of heavy armor equipped. We have a 10% increase on our max health. Also makes us really survivable. So it makes us more tankier, but at the same time just more survivable because our health pool is a lot larger. Revitalize. When 5 or more pieces of heavy armor equipped, increases the magic and stamina of your heavy attacks restored by 25%. And then Rapid Mending increases your healing received by 8% for having 5 pieces or more of heavy armor. World skills, Soul Magic. I like Soul Summons. This one allows you to revive once every hour without spending a Soul Gem. If you have a bunch of Soul Gems, like if you die in a dungeon or a trial by making mistakes or whatever, you can revive and it's not going to cost you a Soul Gem every hour. This one, Soul Lock. Killing an enemy with a weapon ability has a 10% chance to automatically filling an empty Soul Gem. Vampire. Now, these are the vampire options I went with. You don't have to use these ones. You can use whatever you want. We have Devouring Swarm. Darken the sky with a cloud of bats, dealing 3,279 magic damage to nearby enemies every second for 5 seconds. The bats heal you for 2,343 health for each enemy they damage. We have Accelerating Drain. Consume an enemy's life force, dealing X amount of magic damage and restoring 22% of your missing health every second for 3 seconds. When you activate the drain, the enemy is stunned for 3 seconds. When the drain ends, you gain Minor Expedition, increasing your movement speed by 10% for 20 seconds. It's a kind of a nice movement, like helper ability, when you can get it to work right. Baleful Mists. Dissolve into a dark mist, reducing your damage taken by 75% and dealing 1541 magic damage to nearby enemies every second for 4 seconds. Entering this form removes and grants immunity to all disabling and immobilize effects, but you cannot be healed and your Magicka recovery is disabled. Make sure you unlock all the passives for Vampire. Fighter's Guild. You don't really need anything from the Fighter's Guild, but I do like Rearming Trap for even if I'm playing a Magicka character because it does apply minor force and it does do damage. On the passives, you just need Intimidating and Banish the Wicked. Mage's Guild, you are going to unlock all the passives and all the skills for purposes that you might want to. So if you want structured entropy, so you have higher health on your character, you can do that, and you can adjust the build to that purpose if you want to. If you want balance for your buff for resistances instead of the beckoning thing, you can do that. Also, the Fighters Guild, you could even learn the Silver Leash to have a pull for that purpose. And you can even use it while using balance. So you can take advantage. Like I said, it's all about taking advantage of how your character works. Sejic Order, unlock all the skills you want and the passives. You never know what you're going to need. Again, Undaunted, same thing. You can unlock the skills and the passives if you want to. As you can see, I chose Sanguine Altar, Inner Beast for a range taunt stamina. I have Bone Surge for a shield. And then I took Energy Orb, so I have a heal over time that I can cast to my allies and give them the resources. And I can use this as a tanky healer or damage dealer. Alliance War, I do have Aggressive Warhorn unlocked and my support skill, Replenishing Barrier. Also, I have some skills here unlocked for this, for when I play other roles, and if I need them for purpose of tanking or anything like that. Breton skills, unlock all your passives. Gifted Magnus is going to give you 2,000 Magicka. Spell Attunement increases your spell resistance by 2310. This effect is doubled if you are affected by Burning, Chilled, or Concussed. Increases your magic recovery by 100. And then Magic Mastery reduces the Magicka cost of your abilities by 7%. Moving on to crafting. Alchemy, medicinal use, really, really good one to have. And Provisioning, Gourmand and Connoisseur. These are easy skill lines to level if you have the craft bag. Alright, now moving over the skills we have on our bar. Now remember, you do not have to use the same skills as me. That's why I choose to unlock all the different skills on my bar, so I have more options available to me, so I have choices. This way I don't limit my ability to play the game. I actually have more options available for when I need them. So I'm just going to go back to my standard setup of what I use, and you guys can go from there. Alright, starting with the front bar, we have Hungry Sign. Now this does some magic damage. It also heals you for each enemy hit, and it gives you a heal over time, which is kind of nice. The next one we have here is Crushing Shock. Now this is really nice. It does all 3 damage types, Flame, Frost, and Shock damage, so you have a chance of applying Burning, Chilled, or Concussed on the enemy with this. While enemies hit while casting are interrupted and set off balance and stunned for 3 seconds. It's a nice interrupt for a tank to have. Next ability we have is Bone Surge. Now this is a really good defensive skill. It's going to give you a shield based on your max health, 34% of your max health, and it's also a really good synergy for your group. An ally near you can activate the Spinal Surge synergy, granting the ally and up to 3 other friendly targets near them a damage shield that absorbs 58% of their max health for 6 seconds, and gain major vitality, increasing their healing received. And that does apply to any heals applied to them. Next ability we have is Resistance Flesh. Now I love Resistance Flesh. I didn't realize how good of a skill it was until I was testing. And sacrifice your own power to repair damaged flesh, healing you or an ally in front of you for 8,459 health, but applying Minor Defile to yourself for 4 seconds, reducing your healing received and health recovery by 15%. You grant the target physical and spell resistance equal to half the amount healed for 3 seconds. It's a really great tool. If somebody's taking a lot of damage, you can apply this to them. They can get those resistances, get out of the area of effect that's applying a lot of damage to them, and it gives them that little bit of oomph to survive that. Next ability we have on our bar is Sanguine Altar. This, you conjure up Fountain of Blood to apply minor lifesteal to enemies in the area, healing you and your allies for 660 health every 1 second when damaging them. Allies in the area can activate the Blood Funnel synergy, healing for 44% of their max health. The next one we have is a really cool ultimate, and this is Renewing Animation. Bring your allies back from the brink of death, resurrecting up to 3 allies in the target location. You restore 5,300 magic and stamina for each ally you resurrect. Moving on to the back bar. First ability we have is Unnerving Boneyard. Now this one desecrate the ground at the target location, dealing 20,548 frost damage over 10 seconds and applying major breach and fracture to the enemy within reducing their spell and physical resistance by 5,280. You can consume a corpse on cast to deal 20% more damage. An ally standing in the graveyard can activate the Grave Robber synergy, dealing 9,801 frost damage to enemies in the area and healing you for the damage done. Next, we have Blockade of Storms. This is mainly to keep up that disease enchant on our enemies, so that way we can keep that minor defile on them. So this way we can help reduce their healing received, especially in certain encounters. Next ability we have is Skeletal Arcanist. Now this one, unearth a skeletal mage from the dirt to fight by your side for 16 seconds. The mage attacks the closest enemy for 2 seconds, dealing 1967 shock damage to them and all other enemies nearby. It creates a corpse on death. Next ability we have is Remote Totem. This one calls forth an effigy of bone and gives minor protection to your allies for 9.5 seconds, reducing damage taken by 8%. After 2 seconds, the totem instills fear in the enemies, holding them in place for 4 seconds. It's a really great CC. And it's a really great protection buff. Next ability we have Beckoning Armor. Wrap yourself in hardened bone, granting you major resolve and major ward, increasing physical and spell resistance by 5,280 for 20 seconds. While active, enemies that strike you with a ranged attack will be pulled towards you once every 3 seconds. Creates a corpse when the effect completes. So you can take advantage of all the corpses that die, not only with this ability, but also with your heal. So, and the last one we have is Aggressive Warhorn. This boosts your allies, yours and your allies' max magic and stamina by 10% for 30 seconds. You and your allies gain major force, increasing your critical damage by 15% for 9 seconds. And that is it for the skills. Moving on to the CP. Now, I didn't change the CP on this, but you can if you so choose. We have 56 in Ironclad. This reduces damage taken from direct damage attacks by 20%. We are in heavy armor, but we are using an ice staff, so we don't get the extra resistances like you do with sword and shield. That's why I have 24 points into spell shield to increase my spell resistance by 2230. Moving on over here, we have 23 into Thick Skin, reducing damage taken from damage over time effects by 10%. We have 43 into Hardy, reducing damage taken from physical poison disease damage by 10%. And 43 into Elemental Defender, reducing damage taken from Flame Frost, Shock, and Magic damage by 10%. Moving on over here, we have 40 into Bastion. This increases the effectiveness of your damage shields by 16%. We have 19 into Quick Recovery, increasing your healing received by 5%. And 22 into Heavy Armor Focus, increasing your physical resistance by 2,067 while wearing 5 pieces of heavy armor. So as you can see, we balance out not having a shield equipped by using our CP to do that. And we have to sacrifice other things to complement that. Moving on, we have 40 into Warlord. This reduces our break free cost by 16%. We have 16 into Sprinter, reducing our cost to sprint by 10%. 16 into Bashing Focus, reducing our bash cost by 10%. Moving on to the middle tree, we have 43 into Arcanist, increasing your mag recovery by 10%. 75 into Tenacity, increasing your mag and stamina recovery of your fully charged heavy attacks by 14%. This also plays off the heavy armor passive that does 25%. This is how you're going to get your resources back, is by heavy attacking. 40 into Tumbling, reducing your dodge roll by 16%. For that one piece of medium armor, you get another 4% on top of that. That is a 20% dodge roll cost reduction. And then we have 40 into Shadow Word, reducing our block cost by 16%. For using an Ice Staff as our weapon, just so you know, because we have Destruction Staff, one of the passives is Ancient Knowledge. Equipping a Frost Staff reduces the cost of blocking by 36% and increases the amount of damage you can block by 20%. So when we use this, we actually go over 50% block cost reduction. Since we have a pretty high pool of magicka, we can actually take advantage of that without needing block cost reduction on our equipment. Sorry. Moving on to the blue tree. We have 43 into Bless. This increases our healing done by 10%. We have 56 in Elfborn, increasing our critical damage and critical healing done with all magical abilities by 20%. 56 in an Elemental Expert. This increases Flame Frost, Shock, and Magic damage by 12%. And then moving on to the middle here, we have 35 in the Staff Expert, increasing our light and heavy attack damage with Destruction and Rest of Staffs by 20%. This helps us because we do a lot of heavy attacks for resource return. This is going to help us when we do that to get damage done and get resources back. Also, we have 40 in the Master at Arms. This increases our damage done with direct damage attacks by 16%. This does stack with this when you do a heavy attack. So this 16 or 12% applies to this 16%, and you get actually a 28% increase in your damage. And then with the light attacks, you get another 20. So you get a lot of damage output from your light and heavy attacks. Moving on, and this only applies to the light attacks and heavy attacks of Ice Staff and Fire Staff, and Lightning and Resto light attacks. Heavy attacks from Resto and Lightning Staffs are affected by this. That's why we have 40 points in here, increasing your damage done with damage over time effects by 16%. So you can heavy attack and take advantage of that damage. Alright, and that is it for the CP. Now you guys are probably wondering, what does this thing look like in action? I want to see how you use it. Today, we are going to go, and I'm going to set this to Veteran. We are going to go back into our favorite little dungeon over here called Depths of Malatar, and I'm going to show you guys this thing in action so you can see how effective it can be at tanking. And I'm just using a standard setup. Now, remember, any skills that you don't like on the bar, you can swap them out with other skills you have to give you an advantage based on your group's dynamic.
Your note said abandoned, as in no one left alive inside.
Take it to the
Right, so we're going to go ahead and buff up our resistances when we get in this room, and we are going to start just showing you how effective this thing can tank. If you need to block, like I said, you can use blocking. I would advise not blocking everything with this build because it doesn't need to. You have shields that can help you mitigate most of the incoming damage. The only time you really need to block is when you're fighting a boss encounter. When you're fighting trash, you really don't need it. And there you go. That is this thing in action. That's what it looks like when you're playing it and how it can work inside of a dungeon as a tank. You guys can decide what skills you want to use, how you want to set it up, because I'm just giving you the tools to show you how it can be done. And that's it for the Lich Mother tank roll. I hope you guys liked it. If you do, you know what's coming next. Go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can subscribe. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day. And this guy might see you in game. Bye.